Hello folks and welcome to our game. Myself, Shane Stapleton, joined today by Cyril Farrell. We'll have Michael Verney on at some stage, and Nisha Waldron is also going to join us. Cyril, big weekend of hurling. It felt like it really got going this past weekend.
Yeah, and you can see, Shane, that the counties are treating the league serious, I suppose, because of next year's the way the programme is like. And all the games the weekend, they're all tough, very tight games. There was no big kind of a winner, say, by 9 or 15 points. They all went down to the wire, really. Like, and the game I was at turned out to be a right good game in Thurles. Like, you always get a good game there. Even though the first time ever, Shane, I said the pitch in Thurles was fairly heavy, very heavy for a Thurles pitch now.
Yeah, just up the 1 goals there up at the town end, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Very bad. What did you make of the game overall? So, for people who didn't see the result over the weekend, Tipperary eventually won the game by 126 to 24 points. Yeah, what was your thoughts on it?
It was a good game. Both halves, Tipp started very well, Shane, in both halves. First 15 minutes, first half, second half, the same thing. I think in the first half, the shot 6 points clear. Now, to be fair to Galway, they fought back again, went in at half-time around 2 or 3 down. Second half, same thing again, same scenario. Tipp took over completely, and I think they went 8 points up, and again, Galway fought back. Now, Tipp put a glass on the scoreboard with the penalty in more or less the last puck. But now, they deserved it. They botched a couple of goal chances. That goal was coming all day, even though albeit it came from a 21. But yeah, I'd say, Tipperary will be happy enough. Ronan Maher played very well full back. They had Breen kind of earmarked. For me, it felt he was marking Connor Wheeler, and he just stayed there. Robert Byrne was tough centre back. I thought Brian O'Meara was having a good game until he went off slightly injured. And Conor Bowe was having, again, a wing forward, got lovely scores. The two boys midfield, Willie Connors and Seamus Kennedy worked very hard, and they won midfield hands down. Now, the forwards were, they got great scores and they botched a few, but when they were good, they looked very good. And you'd be wondering at times how they didn't win it easier. But after saying that, Galway kind of fought back. But definitely on the Galway and Shane, it showed up very, very poor in the air. Not able to win our own puck outs or the Tipp not winning no puck outs. So with very little ball, they were scoring a bit, but weren't just able to win the ball. That was basically it. Tipp won a lot more ball, won the hard ball, but definitely won the aerial ball with no problem really.
And, you've been at plenty of Galway matches this year. I was at beside you for the match in Parnell Park against Dublin. So you've seen an awful lot of what Henry Shefflin's trying to do this year. Now, my comment on the game at the weekend, obviously this wasn't, let's say, a full-strength Galway team, but I was thinking, when you won that All-Ireland in 17 and you had the run of 4 or 5 years there where you were really, really strong, every player was enormous. There were Limerick-sized players before Limerick had those sized players. And I looked at this team and I was like, these are all brilliant players. Like Gavin Lee's going to be a brilliant player. Donal O'Shea is going to be a good player. Even Tom Monaghan, all these guys are good players. But the size profile is very, very different for Galway these days. There's still some big lads, but you actually have a lot of smaller lads as well.
Yeah. A few kind of fairly bigger lads come back, like Joe Coney still isn't there, Cathal Manning still isn't there, Brian Concannon. They'd all be first team players really if they were there. But no, yeah, but it's, okay, the physical in, but outside of the physical in, we weren't winning the ball. You know what I mean? You have to win ball, especially primary possession. We weren't doing that, and we weren't, to be fair to Tipp, they were pinging, when they were on top, they were swinging around lovely ball and pinpointing passes. They seem to have real method. We were kind of living on scraps, and Galway were going to have to kind of figure out, well, definitely again, they're going to have to figure out who's the best fullback. Yesterday, we didn't pick, I was sure to be playing, Dahi Buck should be playing from the week before. It wasn't picked at all. Eventually came on the second half and he was put in wing back. We have an all-star fullback and we're not playing, that's full back. Centre back again, we're in trouble yesterday. Park Manning was picked and it didn't start, and Shane Cooney started there. You know, whatever happened, young Lawless, whether he got built in the Fitzgibbon match, I don't know. But like, kind of caught for pace up the middle. Like, definitely midfield isn't good enough. Like what we have, as you say, young Lee is nice, but he's not strong yet. Don O'Shea kind of playing a loose role, going back into the backs. Got a few balls first half, didn't hit the ball the second half. Like, you have to win, or you have to at least break even in that middle third. We didn't. But I'd say if you go through the stats, to be 70-30, like in favour of Tipp. So in a sense, you'd wonder how did Galway get 24 points. That's kind of half a mystery in the sense, like, because Tipp was so much on top, and like no, they did win it by the 5 points, and then the goal came very near the end, but they were deserving of that 5 points.
And Nisha, you were down at Clare against Waterford, of course, but just in terms of Galway and Tipperary, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the full game yet, but that's good back-to-back performances for Tipperary, albeit, Dublin were poor the first day out, but Tipp did put them away, even though, like, for spells here, 20 minutes, maybe Tipp went a bit gun-shy and let Galway back into it, but Tipp are looking okay so far.
Yeah, like, sure, 2 wins from 2, obviously you can't get much better than that, and like, the way the league is going as well, and obviously you never know what kind of a fitness block they're in, but every game seems to be kind of fairly similar at the minute from what I've seen anyway, where a team will be on top, or someone will be on top for 20 minutes and then gone out of it for 10, then back for another 10 and out of it again, and people look like they're kind of, the legs are gassed. It was very like the game, the Waterford and Clare game was like that yesterday, and Tipp and Galway seems to be the same too, where I know Cyril is saying there, like, how did they score as much? But it's like when they were on top, they seemed to be able to score. But then, obviously, then Tipp came back and then the goal. And, like, it's, the goals wins games, as Cyril famously said years ago, So, like, that was the difference, I suppose, as well. And, Tipp still, again, without firing on all cylinders, they're still winning. They're winning 2 games. And then again, like, like you said there now, the Dublin result is a funny one, because look at the way Dublin, probably got lucky to come out of Belfast with a win then yesterday as well.
And Cyril, just in terms of some of the decisions in the match in Semple Stadium yesterday, did you feel that Tipperary, Robert Byrne was very lucky to get away with a red card at one stage? He unnecessarily lent into Evan Nyland. He could have just absorbed, Nyland, but instead he dumped it into him.
Yeah, but look at that's part again. Robert plays in age. Like, he's a good with his stuff and he's hardy. That's the way he plays, and like, as you know, he often gets sent off, maybe not for Tipp, but for club as well, like that. But he's a good player, like, and to me, like, I thought to be playing Brian O'Mara centre back. I saw him the last few years with UL playing very well centre back. Would be more at home, I felt, was going very well. I was talking to him afterwards actually, and he just pulled it, felt a tweak and didn't want to do any more damage. Came off himself, I'd say, like, really knew there was something wrong. Good hurler as well. But like, Robert is holding down, like, a lot of Tipp people wondering how he's centre back, but he's holding down because he's hard. He's there the whole time, he's holding middle. Whereas, like, Conor Bowe and Brian O'Mara have been nicer hurlers, and Bowe picked up his few points yesterday. Like, you often get a good wing back or a good wing forward going back, wing back, and that's what seems to be happening here. I'd say they're happening. It's great to see Craig Morgan back for Tipp. Very, very kind of, I would say, a modern cornerback, very fast able to attack. And Breen did a good job. Now, Conor Whelan isn't long back from Australia, but Breen did a good job, and he was on him. He stayed on him all day, no matter what way Galway now we're moving around the pitch that 4 to 5 hours up to. They never played 6 in, because Tom Annan was picked, say, corner forward. He was more or less out midfield. The way the modern thing is. So, like, they moved around a lot, but the Tipp back still had a grip on them. And like when Mark Keogh came on, like, as you know, he's a good hurler. He showed his pace. He walked through the Galway half back then at times with a bit of pace like that, and got great scores early in the second half. Got fantastic scores for Tipp, which, when you look back on the match, actually was there. The match was won and lost, really.
And Nisha, there's obviously Fitzgibbon going on, and the different tiers of college competitions going on at the moment. And I'm looking at Grode O'Connor. Is he like a typical player who has benefited massively from a good run of winning the last couple of Fitzgibbons with UL?
100%, yeah, 100% he is, yeah. Because, like, you just the physical development in itself, and then, like, Mark, and this is why I understand kind of like county managers wanting their players in, throughout the winter and stuff like that. But, like, look at the benefit, like, say Michael Kiley in Waterford as well, where, like, you're coming up against inter-county hurlers, on a weekly basis, either training with them as well in your college, or then playing against them then in the Fitz or Ryan Cup games, like. So I just think there's such a huge, and then having playing it as well, like, obviously I think there's just such a huge benefit to playing the Fitzgibbon matches during the winter, rather than playing challenge matches and then playing the kind of pre-season tournaments. And then, okay, right, obviously you might miss out on the first round of the league or something, depending on how far your college goes. But he's a huge example of really the benefit, because you're with your college team, you're surrounded by top class hurlers, you're doing your gym program with the college, you're kind of getting your recovery in with the college. You're not driving all around the country or being asked to drive up and down the country. And just, and I remember probably the best example of it ever was can't think of his name now, from Limerick. Remember, he was unbelievable in the Fitzgibbon for LIT, and then he soldiered for years then with for Limerick county team. He had a shaved head. Oh my God. Anyway,
Jim Ryan?
No, I cannot think of him now. He was a hard wing back or cornerback or midfield. Wayne McNamara.
Oh yeah, he actually trained with us in Coola once or twice. He was up in Dublin. He trained with us. Hardy bit of stuff.
I always remember he just in the fits. It was what brought him kind of in front of everyone, or put him in the eyes of everyone. And then he just soldiered in for years with Limerick. Gerard O'Connor has benefited hugely, obviously, from it.
Yeah, Cyril, maybe you want to take up that point. I'm sure you've seen him a lot in the Fitzgibbon.
Oh yeah, well I've seen it. Yeah, the whole. But you look at even Brian O'Mara, talking about improving him. Like he's like, I remember going to Babs Keaton one time and I said to him, Babs, we have the best centre back in Tipp and the wing back, and you're not playing them at all. No, they were kind of new at the time. Connor, McGrath was wing back that time, came on the team, and Conor Mahoney came centre back. They were in LIT. With that way, McNamara kind of formed a very good half back line. You know what I mean? And it just benefit from as Naoise says there, mixing with other fellas, training with other county lads, and kind of bloomed. And like, to me, Fitzgibbon hurling is way ahead of under 20 hurling now. So different, first of all, they're more mature, they're older, but you have a lot of very, very good county players spread around the whole lot. And even next Wednesday night now, there's a watering match coming up up in Clare between NUIG and UL. That'll be some game, two teams good enough to win the Fitzgibbon, I would think, but there's only one of them going to get through. It's a humdinger of a match to look forward to.
Cyril, are there any players that you're excited about seeing more of this year? I mean, Gerard O'Connor isn't young, but he's someone that we're excited seeing in year two. A couple of guys with Clare there. Conor Lean, he did quite well over the weekend. Cian Galvin is someone, you would have been seeing the last year or two. Sean Rinn. Like, across the board, are there players that you're liking the look of?
Yeah, there's a young lad there in Dublin. Just seems to be on every day. Now maybe he's into a young Purcell guy. Lovely wrist. I'm looking at the young Drinnan guy from Kilkenny. He got injured last year and kind of, didn't actually feature in the championship at all. Sharpshooter. Even Garage O'Connor, like, he didn't play against Galway Leicester. He got injured, and he was having. But the Fitzgibbon has brought him on a ton, and it's interesting to see, there's a not new fella coming. Like in Galway, you'd have Cayman Kelly and these fellas, kind of under 20 guys. They're involved with UCG, and I suppose looking back even on the games the weekend between all the colleges, they're playing a lot, and they're all still in it until this week, and then it's down to 2. But definitely. There's Gavin Lee kind of in UCG as well, kind of always touted well here, kind of, I suppose, will develop hopefully into a kind of very good midfielder, maybe put on a bit more straight. All these fellas are kind of there. TJ Brennan kind of didn't really click yesterday, but he's full back for, like, with UL, looks very good looks very good Fitz hurler, and like getting a lot of exposure. The UL team, I'd see the problem they have is probably picking their best team, because they have a terrible lot of county lads. It's hard to know who's who. Like young Rogers played there for Clare one weekend and burned the lights out, and next thing you see him with UL, and until the last minute, I think he got a goal and a point in, but up to then he was kind of well held. But like, he kind of came from the Fitzgibbon thing as well on the Clare team. Now he's a regular, even though he didn't play yesterday, but he will be, if barring injury, he'll be a regular for the championship.
Sir, did you come away from Thurles yesterday thinking, I'm encouraged by the Galway fight back, or more concerned about when Tipperary were on top, how one way the traffic was?
Yeah, well, I'd be delighted with the fought back both times, because we were out of the game completely. The thing that would concern me is that the boys are there 3 years now. They'd want to settle more or less on what they want. You know what I mean? Like, who's going to be full back? Who's going to be centre back? Midfield, big problem. Like, who's going to be there in the championship? Maybe they have injuries and all that. Who's going to be in goals? Like, Eddie Murphy was in goals all along for the championship last 2 years, did very well, didn't do much wrong as far as I was concerned. And now they're playing Derek Fay, who did nothing wrong either. But I can guarantee you, if you have 2 number ones at the very same level, it'll affect some of them. You need a number 1 and you need a number 2. And like, our puckouts, they're just not good enough. Like the modern game, you have to be able to pin the ball. Like you can't just, when you puck it long, it looks lovely. We're not winning any kind of long ball, we're just not winning there. So we have to be able to ping it. So you have to look at all them things. Like, and definitely, now we'd have a few injuries. Like Joe Cooney, I don't think he's back training, but he hasn't played yet. Like, some of the lads have played a lot. But when we get after next week, everyone is back. There's no excuses. Like, and I'd like to see them settle more or less on what their 15 or what their 18 is really.
Nisha,
just on commentary there, Breen Tyres mentioned actually that David Burke was to be coming back in. Is that true?
He's back. Yeah, he's back in and training, doing a little bit, but he's had a long campaign, and David Burke with the club, swinging out. Yesterday, Conor Cooney came on as well and got 4 or 5 points in play. Got wound up on the end of passes, and no better man to swing over the wrist. Kind of lovely scores. Like they'll strengthen the panel, but you still need your top 15 or 18 playing very well. And you have to kind of settle on, because all of a sudden, there's 2 or 3 more league games, and then you're into the championship. And Leinster to me isn't as strong as Munster, but you just look at the results yesterday. Like Wexford got hard, or the weekend got hard to beat. Didn't beat Offaly, a draw. Dublin were lucky to get out of Antrim. You know what I mean? So and Kilkenny to me are improving, especially lads with the Ballyhale fellas this year, not winning the championship. I'm not saying it was hard luck in Ballyhale, but Derek Lyng would be quietly happy because they are getting a break that they didn't have before. And you'll find the likes of Cody and these fellas will be flying around the place. They'll be fresher this year than any year, I think.
In terms of Kevin Cooney's injury, who's going to step up in his absence?
Well, you see, I really believe that whoever 6 Galway play up front, they'll score enough. You know what I mean? Whatever 6, like Kevin Cooney made his breakthrough really last year, and that's another lad that was inside in the region college in Galway, kind of came through there. Good hurler, but did a bad tear and had to have an operation and be gone for a few months. But who could stand up? It could be Conor Whelan full forward, it could be Conor Cooney full forward, it could be Jason Flynn. Whatever 6 go out, even yesterday, even being well beaten, they still scored 24 points. League game is still a good score, and being kind of beaten all around the pitch. You couldn't say any Galway player was completely on top. Keenan Fahy maybe in the backs. And I suppose Conor Whelan up front, he's still a handful, not fully fit yet. Conor Cooney. But other than that, we weren't really on top anywhere, still in the game. And Tipp will improve, the games from Tipp will improve, and they have a few to come back as well. Maybe not as many to come back as people think.
Yeah, I was encouraged by a lot of what Tipperary did. I mean, playing for 70 minutes is a different job, especially when they're totally trying to change things, bring through so many players. But I thought Sean Kennelly, the ball stuck to him. That's his first start in the league. I thought he was good. I thought the ball stuck in with Sean Ryan. He probably had 3 goal chances, and there was a brilliant save by Derek Fahy for one of them. But the ball stuck, and he gave a lot of trouble to Galway. John McGrath at centre forward, it's not fully happening for him just yet, but obviously, look, he has a lot of time. Couple of injuries, obviously not ideal, but I think overall, Nisha, Tipperary will be very happy with how they're moving.
Yeah, because seeing them in person there now against Dublin last weekend, we were kind of watching them warm up, and I was kind of looking, I was like, God, that's a very extravagant. They were doing this 3-person weave kind of thing with the slitter. It was a long strike, a catch, a hand pass, and then a short strike. And I was kind of going, God, there's no need for that really, is there? And next thing, when they started, they just were gliding up and down the field. They look really fit. They look real strong. And yeah, with the games now, they'll improve. But like you kind of touched on it there, you'd be kind of expecting a good bit more from John McGrath. Now, maybe if he is going to be playing, he probably won't be centre forward, I'd imagine, because he was very quiet against Dublin, quiet enough again against Galway as well. Still lads to come back, like we're saying, but they obviously they'd have to be happy with 2 wins out of 2, while not playing brilliantly. They're still it's no kind of easy win to be beating Galway. I don't care what it is. Tipp and Galway is always both teams are always trying to win the game. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is. So that is a good win. They performed. They turned Dublin over really well. That could be more down to Dublin maybe, but turned Dublin over really well and punished them every time they did. So they are fairly clinical, and they seem to be able to score a nice bit as well. Their movement is so good as well. Again, like Liam Cahill just always has, whatever they do, obviously in training, their forward play, their forward movement, their linkage, it's really, really good. To be fair to them,
they're playing the perfect ball. But there's one thing you have to think. It's still February. Tipp at the back of their heads, or even the supporters' heads, will be last year. The blaze through the league then kind of got caught, like, through no one's fault. But I would think that Liam Cahill would be saying to himself, like, this is great, but he won't be getting too carried away, because, like, it's still early and it's great to win the matches. But sometimes you learn as much losing, even though it's hard, as winning. And you're touching John McGrath there, like, that's my second time to see him play more as centre forward, and he's still, no, maybe he's back from injury and wouldn't be fully fit. I don't know what the fitness thing is, but he's not himself yet compared to what the John McGrath I'd know. You know what I mean? Now that could all blossom, but if he doesn't make it, you're going to be looking for a centre forward. And Garrod O'Connor would love to win there, but now he's playing so well. Wingford mightn't like to touch him. But then a lot depends on the injuries as the game goes on. And the more I look on the Munster campaign about the championship now, lads, it's going to be a battlefield. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing in the league. I think the championship is going to be tough down there. Like, 5 into 3 won't go, so it's going to be hard. You look at Cork, a nice hurling, haven't got a win. Hard to believe, two games and no point on the board.
And Nisha, you were down at Walsh Park yesterday. You saw Clare beat Waterford 20 points to 116. Now, first thing I want to bring up is the amount of steps that Sean Walsh took for his goal. He took his man on great and all that kind of stuff, but God, there's an epidemic of steps being taken and not being blown for.
Which are, like, we literally were laughing at it in the commentary, and McDara says to me, "Count him there," and I counted, and he hit the ball, so he struck the sliotar for the goal on the 12th step, like, and it was as clear as day to everybody in the place, except for Liam Gordon, obviously, that he did overcarry the ball. And this is the thing I keep kind of going back to as well. With I know people are awfully upset over the throws and the foul hand passes and things like that, but the overcarrying is as bad, if not worse. Like, it's crazy. Like, people, like, just routinely take 7 steps, like, at least, with the ball in their hand, especially when they're bearing in on goal or coming out with the ball. You know, when somebody's coming out and they're met by somebody and it's still in the hand, it's still in the hand, it's still in the hand. You're kind of going, well, he's either being fouled by the tackler or, you know, he's overcarrying the ball. So I don't know.
It's a big thing. Did any of you see the match between Wexford and Offaly? No, the ref in that match pulling the Wexford as for what you were saying, overcarrying. You know, and see, most matches they get away with it, and they were bemused or amused. They didn't, like, they were being pulled for it. They were overcarrying, but they're not so used to getting pulled for it. Like, you know, most. So it's hard on the back if you're overcarrying. No, a lot of the time, as you said there, that the backs are fouling as well. You know, like even yesterday with the Waterford thing, like the hurlers around your neck, that should be like, that's a free no matter what we do. But like, it's very hard on the back if the forward is carrying and allowed to overcarry. How do you stop him? You know,
sure. Without fouling him, how can you stop him? Like, if he's overcarrying the ball, like, you foul him. Like,
Nisha, what was the mood like down in Walsh Park before and after the match?
They were buzzing before the match. It was great. Like, they told us that there was only 2,000 tickets sold, but then some of the stewards were saying they were expecting 4,000, and it kind of looked somewhere probably between 4 and 5. Now, a lot of people left the stand and came over to the new area where there was no roof, because when the sun came out, it was actually nice, kind of warm enough. It was around 10 degrees, so people were filtering over. So it was kind of hard to judge, but there was a real buzz in the area. All around Walsh Park and in Walsh Park, and they were kind of, even for the warm-up, like, and stuff, there was just a good energy there. But then kind of halfway through the match, it died, and you could feel it, kind of the energy just being sucked out, because the game, it obviously wasn't a great game. It was good, hard, physical kind of stuff, but the field was very soft. So the sliotar, people were trying to play a nice ball and all, but the sliotar kept dying in the ground. So, like, any kind of diagonal ball anyone was trying to play, it would be going across somebody and then it would just stick in the ground. So the next thing, like, I don't know how many times Liam Gordon had to throw the ball in. Like, there was just so many rucks. Ball wasn't going anywhere. It had to be thrown in, but then sure, people weren't clearing out. So then it would end up being thrown in again. So that was kind of killing the energy of the game. I think Clare went something like 15 minutes without scoring at one stage. Waterford were the same in another period, when something around 12 to 13 minutes, maybe even longer, without scoring. So that was kind of killing the game, killing the energy, and people started leaving early, even though the game was close as well. So it was a fierce exciting at the start, and, you know, early scores, a few very quick early scores. We got a goal as well, but then it just sucked the life out of them. And I think as well, tactically, kind of killed a bit of the excitement. Paddy Levy as a sweeper on one side, and then Conlon as a sweeper on the other, and it just ended up being right. They were just picking up every break and just kind of trotting around, popping it over and back, and popping it over and back, and so kind of killed the atmosphere a bit.
Yeah. Can I ask you, Cyril, about Waterford's team? Like, I was looking at who was doing the scoring for them, and Stephen Bennett, who, you know, we'll talk about him going off injured, but he scored frees only. Sean Moss scored 1-1 from play. The only other point from play from a Waterford forward was Jack Prendergast, because the other scores, Patrick Hearn was named midfield, Conor Ryan's a back, Shane Bennett scored 2 frees, Paddy Levy playing as a sweeper, Darrell Lyons as a midfielder. So in the forward line, there wasn't a massive threat, and I think they'd scored 112 after 60 odd minutes. So they didn't look a massive threat.
Yeah, but like the system that they're playing, and like, so you see, like what Clare scored 1 point more than we see. It's hard, like, as you know, the numbers go out the game. It's the middle third; they're all in there. And yesterday, Gordon was throwing in the ball a lot of the time. There was rooks that didn't clear out. There was another rook. I thought it was going to be a war because we were only looking at the monitor and tourists was coming through in it. Like one time, there was at least 20 players, a few for one throw in, and a throw in again. You were inviting trouble. But the system that they're working, like with the sweeper and all running from the middle third, popping over outside, you see. You know, if you have to have very good hurlers to do, but they're kind of, you know, I was at a function Saturday night for the three boys in Limerick and Patrick's Well, and I remember the first night that they played their system under David Kiley and John Kiley and Paul Kinnerk. It was in that Waterford Crystal thing at the time in Limerick, and it was only a few hundred and the Limerick crowd were roaring at them to hit the ball because it was breaking down. It takes a while to get all that systems going, and you'll find now if you get the likes of Jamie Barron and these lads back, they will be able to run. It's popping from outside because it's very. To me, the full back lines in the modern game are kind of, how would you say, they're glorified kind of spearmen, because there's never 3 on 3 inside, and there's barely 2 on 3. You know, there's nearly 1.5 in and out. You know, so they'll always hold the shape in the full back line. So it's the forwards are under pressure, and you're going to have an extra man 1 in or 2, and the same the other way. So it's kind of like rugby, kicking the ball, kind of playing at the percentages. You see the scoreline, like you might get through for an odd goal, but it won't be a big score, especially with the pitch bad. But that's the modern game is kind of possession. If you get a crowd of young lads now, even in a club team, and you ask them to hit the ball along to the full forward, they probably won't do it for you. They're saying, "Oh, look, that's old style hurling. You're too old," like, you know. So they all want to work through the lines. But the thing is, the more you go through the lines and the more passes in it, the better chance there is of it breaking down. You have to and especially with the tackling, and as you know, as Nathan there, the bad weather, like the ball was sticking. One time I saw that standing went down into the ground altogether. You couldn't even see the ball. But when it comes summertime, that'll all change. Now, Waterford lost by a point, and everyone's saying they played bad, but like there is in hurling, a point is a very marginal thing. Say 4 points in football is a good bit, but as you know, lads, 5 or 6 in hurling, it's not that they can hurl. They'll be disappointed to lose at home, and Clare will be delighted to win. Clare had a lot of big names, say, missing, but there isn't much, lads, difference between a lot of the so-called big names and the fellas that are coming through. Some of the time, the lads that are coming through will be just as effective, like, and rearing for road.
Like, it's pretty clear that you love hurling, Cyril, no more than the two of us, but like you very clearly love hurling. Do you enjoy the modern game as much as you would have enjoyed it back in the day?
Yeah, well, look, at our day it was different, but like in LIT, it was with Fitzgerald boys, we were trying all these things all the time. You mightn't be good enough to do it, like, and you'd have 2 or 3 different game plans in one half, and it's hard for fellas to change from one to the other. But like, definitely the way it has gone now, if you go into a club now or into a county setup and you start just hitting the ball into the full forward, they'll say, "Oh, no, we're not going to do that." Everyone wants to work through the lines, but you have to be a very good hurler to do it, and you have to be very fit, and you have to be able to go through the tackles. But after saying that, lads, against the storm now, I saw a game about last Sunday week, a college game, and Loughrea were playing at Roy. Loughrea were down 2 points at halftime against a strong breeze, but in the second half, they changed their tactics. They started working through the lines, carrying the ball, and forcing frees. They actually wound up winning. You wouldn't give them a chance at halftime by changing, you know what I mean, by going against the breeze. Much the same as Clare did against Cork and Innis that weekend as well. Against the breeze, started tackling, started carrying the ball, breaking the tackles, which is hard because the other opposition are going to let you through and draw the frees. But if you're fit enough to do it, it's hard to block it as well.
Nisha, so you'd know the Ballygunner players very well, having previously played for Ballygunner. Paddy Levy's, you know, generally like a topic of conversation because he's such a good man for winning dirty ball, knows where to be, all that. But it was interesting to watch the Clare players stand off him when they had the ball because they're like, you know, maybe you're not as silky on the ball as some other lads. So like it seemed a very deliberate tactic.
Yeah, and then they decided all of a sudden then they push up on him. Sorry, now 1 second, just had to move. Stupid phone. So the thing was, he's very, very smart with the ball. He got caught there one time and Clare scored off it as well. Because he rarely strikes it, which was gas for his point in as well. Because then he scored this big ferocious long range point. because he's always doing that little kind of wooden spoon pass nearly with the hurl where he shortens it down. His hand is literally nearly on his tape, like, and he's just flicking it around like that. But their tactic to find him from their own puckouts was very, very clever, I thought. And then there was once or twice there, so Waterford decided to push up on him, and then kind of like Cyril was saying earlier, you have to be able to ping the ball, right? So Sean O'Brien in goal there then pinged it over the midfielder, over into a hole right in front of Jack Pendergast, who caught the ball, dropped it, and then got fouled for free. Like it was really interesting. But again, right, obviously the conditions don't play into the way that Waterford want to play. But Paddy Levy, yeah, he's very clever with the ball. He's not going to strike it out of his hand all the time. And then sometimes you can see when they do sit back off him, he's looking up and kind of going, oh, you know, kind of like, oh, what'll I do? You know, he nearly prefers that somebody comes to him so he can flick it away over to somebody who's running, Mark Fitzgerald or Martine Power maybe sometimes, and Tom Barron a couple of times as well, which worked. But what was going on as well, it was just, as far as their shape and the forwards, it was very strange, I thought. The amount of times Waterford lads would make, you know, a couple of little pop passes around the middle, they'd be breaking through, and next thing they're carrying it, and they look up and then had to stop and nearly turn back because the full forward line were actually running towards the man in possession rather than running towards the goal, if you get me. So when they looked up to look for a pass, maybe an overlap pass or maybe a target inside, there was literally nobody in there. Nobody within the 45-yard line. It was very strange, and then that led to then obviously more rucks, and there was plenty of times where there was nobody from Waterford inside the 45-yard line.
Cyril, what do you make of some of the managers who are in year two? Micheál Donoghue's in year two. It's not going brilliantly for them at the moment. Pat Ryan's in year two. That wasn't great for the first 20 minutes. Were very poor the other night. Liam Cahill, I'd say from a Tipp point of view, it looks like it's going well. And then, you know, we're talking year two for Davy. How do you think people are feeling about Waterford in year two, or how are you feeling about year two of what you've seen?
But I think the year two thing, it'll all come down to the championship. You know, I'm just thinking Galway here at the moment, they were beaten yesterday. That won't count when it comes down. Like Galway set out to win against their title. And like that, to me, they have to do to get back like where I feel they should be, and then anything can happen. And going back to Waterford, I still think they'll be targeting their 2 games at home. The game is playing hard to play it in the kind of these conditions, but if they get a run at home, if they win 2 matches, in all probability, Shane, they're going to qualify for the we call it the All Ireland campaign in Croke Park. That'll keep. That would be their aim. I'd say the same. Like you know, Tipp want to win everything, but they'll be very mindful that last year, while playing very well, you know, they still wound up kind of getting caught, would say, at the end of the year, and everyone kind of questioning Liam Cahill, even though like they shouldn't be, but they will be. Like, it's very, and as you say, Pat Ryan under pressure. I'm told in Cork that the best under-20 team of they won the last 3, and they say this year is the best year ever that they have coming through. That'll be 4 if they're able to do it. But like, they're still not showing on the pitch. Now they're very, very near. If small thing could change it, like they could take off and you wouldn't know where to stop. But the team that's kind of settled most, I know are the champions, are Limerick. They're trying out fellas, and they have a lot of new lads coming through. But you'll find we'll call them the regulars, if they're fit, they'll be the team. They know where they are. They know who's going to be in goals if everyone's right. They know who's going to be fullbacks. Like they have their top 20, and that's where the other teams are kind of finding their way. But I suppose when you're not winning, if you're winning, it's easy to say find the top 20. But when you're not, when you're trying to change and chop and change, and at times like sometimes all the chopping and changing isn't the best thing in the world. Like the lad can lose confidence, you know, like, and it's important. But you know, say the likes of Waterford, whoever lost yesterday against, say, Cork and Deise the weekend, and Galway, they'll all drive on to the next game and try to win the next game. That's when they'll tell you it's following the process and on the right path. And like what I'm saying really is that the managers will be judged whether the second year, third year, first after the championship more than the league.
And there's an interesting comment in here actually from Adrian McGrath talking about Waterford. In the summer, Waterford's system will be less effective. With the whole team going forward, when it breaks down, long deliveries will carry further and stretch the game even further, leaving massive gaps, presumably at the back in the Waterford defence. So we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, Shane, even a different sport completely. But you should say that now. Like Leinster there, they have their new coach, and they push up on every ball, the forwards. They every ball on the ground, they pile in. But when they played Ulster, in one of the games I saw, the Ulster out half, the minute he got the ball, he knew to be coming. He kicked it to the far wing where there was no cover at all. And they actually got 2 or 3 tries. Like, you know, from what you said, all-out attack. When it breaks down, all-out attack is lovely. But even in the modern game, if you go all-out attack and even score, the goalies are allowed, most refs don't stop, they'll have a ball in their pocket, and if everyone's gone forward, you're going to have lads loose up the other end when they do go forward. So it's a gamble.
I think Michael Verney's trying to log in there at the moment. Doesn't seem to be happening for him just yet. But Nisha, you I'm sure you watched Kilkenny against Cork the other night. That first 20 minutes from Cork, I just thought it was like, it probably summed up the worst we've seen of Cork in the last 20 years. And then they were very good after it for long spells. Now, maybe shot selection towards the end let them down a little bit when they could have snuck a result. But can you tell us, first of all, as a Kilkenny man, what did you make of the performance of the Cats?
Like, obviously very slick, very impressive in the first half, but like I think Jackie Tyrrell kind of summed it up well at half time when he said, like, I'd be more worried about Cork than impressed with Kilkenny, because then you see when Kilkenny did, or when Cork did kind of wake up and actually start tackling and marking people, Kilkenny did struggle a bit, and the puckouts kind of went a bit haywire there for a few minutes as well. But again, you have a lot of new lads being tried there, Heary, Luke Hogan, you know, lads like that coming in from O'Loughlin's that maybe obviously haven't played at this level yet. And then see, Cork are so fit and so fast and so strong and athletic. They're kind of always going to be in games all the time anyway, right? But yeah, I think it was really kind of like you said there, right? It was the first 20 minutes was just, it looked like it's unacceptable, really. Like, you just have to say that. Like, it just is, you cannot, it doesn't matter if it's a league game or whatever. You can't play an inter-county game like that. Like, you just can't. A club team, you'd be going mental with them if they were playing like that. And then at the end, then in the second half, when actually they had all the momentum and had the possession and had the chances, like you were saying, some of the shots you're kind of going, oh, you know, take an extra step maybe in the way, an extra step the other way, or whatever, and settle yourself and get the score. But, you know, actually, sorry, there's a comment there about Mikey Carey. That was someone I wanted to talk about. I had heard last year that he was finished, that he was gone because of a medical condition, but so it was brilliant. I thought he was really good. I thought Shane Murphy, wing back, was absolutely brilliant as well. I thought he looked like he's been playing there for 10 years. Like, good in the air, solid, very, very, very clever with possession as well. So great to have Mikey Carey back. Adrian Mullen was a funny one. I know he got man of the match, but I actually thought nearly Downey, who was on him, who caught two unbelievable ones and came out with them. Now he ballooned one, but used the other one very well. I actually thought Downey was doing well, and I know Adrian Mullen, but that's the danger with Adrian Mullen. Even when he's kind of in and out of the game, he still gets 5 points from play, you know. And then Billy Drennan coming on. I know he's been injured. He hasn't been playing much with Minute in the Fitzgibbon. That they were fairly disappointed about that now. But he came in there, and again, when you have a free taker like that, like he's like Owen Cody is a really, really top class forward. But as far as free taking goes, I don't know if there's anyone better than Billy Drennan. He's just he it doesn't matter what the conditions are like, how long he's on the field for. He just steps onto the field, and they're all going over the bar. Like, it's crazy. So a few lads to be actually kind of excited about, but in a way you'd be kind of worried at the way they let Cork back into the game.
Yeah, well, the first 20 minutes, this was like men and boys, wasn't it? Like, the Kilkenny were working it through, and Cork didn't seem to want to know about it. But then, like, they came back into it, and I suppose they could have won it in the end, like, in a sense. But they're gone 2 games now without a win. They need a win or two to give them confidence. You know, a small thing could change the whole thing for Cork. I still think they'll be tricky enough in the championship, because the weather, like, this time of the year, doesn't suit them kind of players. Top of the ground, like, you know, that's what they need.
A couple of months ago, Luke Hogan was an impact sub for O'Loughlin Gales, and now he's starting for Kilkenny. Was he just like being held back because of an injury or something like that, or has he just made this remarkable rise, Nisha?
Yeah, so it's a remarkable rise as well. So he was injured during the season, and then came back and got starting again. But he's in Minute as well, actually, as well. I know Cork Bawn Brannock is the Fitz manager there, and he says he's actually a wing back, and he always has been a wing back. But then it seemed to be something that O'Loughlin's were stuck for forwards, and obviously their back line was nailed on. That they threw him in, hand injury there, that was it, that they threw him in full forward because he's so good in the air. But you kind of even saw maybe against Cushendall, he mightn't be the slickest inside forward you'd get. But at this time of the year, kind of, he's the type of lad now I thought that Mikey Kiley would have been like for Waterford yesterday, where it's a target man in the edge of the square at this time of the year where you make the ball stick. where it goes into him and he'd either win it or it spills and he stands over. But he was kind of quiet enough now yesterday for his first game, to be fair now. Like he kind of like he's after kind of coming up and popping up out of nowhere there to be starting full forward for Kilkenny. Like he's doing exceptionally well. So it'd be interesting to see where he goes from here now, or what Derek Ling's plans are for him, because obviously TJ's to come back. You'd wonder what they're going to do with Billy Drennan. Will he be able to get starting after being injured last year and all? I know he came in one game, but will he push for a starting place? It'd be interesting to see now. And Heary as well, actually. Heary as well. It'd be interesting. Saturday wasn't his best game ever, but he's such a hard worker. He's an absolute unit as well. He can cause awful havoc, like on a hurling field.
Cyril, have you a couple of more minutes, or if you have to rush away, there's no bother at all?
Few more there, if we'll go then, all right?
Yeah. Thank you very much. You're very good at your time. But how far do you think Kilkenny can go this year?
I think they'll be more dangerous this year than the other years. I think, first of all, with the lads getting a break, the Ballyhale Shamrock lads, they've been great service to the club and the county, and they were kind of spinning the whole time. The break will do them good, and they have the few lads coming back. And interesting, even that young Murphy, who I only saw him claim club, was this year with Glenmore in the junior. Like, he came out overnight, to be fair, when he slotted in, you think he was there all his life. They'll be very strong. They're always very hard to beat. I happened to see that a few weeks ago, look at All Ireland again between themselves and Limerick. And even though Limerick won well in the end, there was a lot of the game, there was nothing in it. There was very little in it. It was less in it than people think. And Limerick got, the shots that Limerick took that day, lads, they got points from all angles. If you're over a team and they were putting them wide, you'd be saying, don't shoot from impossible angles, play it back out or play it across, give it to the next shooter. But they went on a run, and sure, no one could. To me, Kilkenny are stronger this year in Leinster than they have been in the last few years.
Michael?
Yeah, Kilkenny, are we here, Shano?
Huh? Yeah, you're here, all right.
Yeah, no, Kilkenny, no, I was just saying, was he talking about, who exactly were we chatting about here? But, because I'm only just after dialing in.
Bernie, you're only up our bed.
I'm not. I was down. You would have loved to be where I was this morning, Cyril. I was down with the Shark Hanlon and I was down with Willie Mullins, hopefully picking up a few Cheltenham Festival winners.
You better give us the winners then for Cheltenham.
I'll give you one. That was a twinkle in Willie's eye when he talked about a horse called Sam Majest that will run in the county hurdle. It's only ran twice for him. Probably double figure odds. Sam Majest. S-A space M-A-J-E-S-T-E will probably run in the county hurdle. But sure, listen, the whole world knows about it now, so it's no secret anymore.
Well, we'll be all right. We can book. We'll back it this evening. All right, don't worry.
Exactly.
But, Cyril, we'll let you go. You've been great with your time.
Thanks, so boys.
Okay, great to have Cyril on there, and he's obviously very popular with the viewers. Plenty of people basically celebrating his attendance today. Michael, we were just talking about Kilkenny and their good performance for large spells. Obviously, Cork came back in, could have won it. Shane Kingston had a couple of goal chances near the end, didn't happen. But you love to slate Cork, so have a pop there.
No, I just thought the first 25 minutes was atrocious, lads. I couldn't believe what I was watching. They were just playing the ball laterally across the field. They have one of the best inside forwards of all time, and they refused to play the ball inside to him. I couldn't believe what I was watching. They didn't physically engage for the first 25 minutes either. And the real frustrating thing from a Cork point of view is that when they do engage physically, they're so hard to handle. Like they were up on top of Kilkenny. They dominated, you'd say, probably most of the last 45 minutes, but they left themselves with a bit of a mountain to climb. Just on the Shane Kingston one as well, I wonder as well, is he forcing goal chances sometimes as well? Should they be? I'm not saying they should be just tapping the ball over for the sake of it, but sometimes he's trying to run through into areas that there is nowhere to go, and sometimes the point is the easiest option. You saw Gerard O'Connor yesterday for Tipp. Maybe the odd time he could have slipped a pass inside, but if you think the point is on and you're under a bit of pressure, you probably take your point. But yeah, I was amazed with that first 25 minutes from Cork. The consistency or lack thereof is what really annoys me about them. And when they're good, they can be very good. But when they're bad, they can be brutal. And that first 25 minutes was terrible to watch. Like, it was awful. And Kilkenny should have had them beaten out of sight. And they shouldn't have been in the game, realistically, coming up to half time. But just on that, and a couple of Cork players, and he's probably been talked about already, like Tommy O'Connell looks a real kind of leader. When a lad is playing well, when a team is playing badly, that's show me that fella every day of the week. And even I thought Conor O'Callaghan was the same. He kind of stood up to probably maybe Owen Downey to a lesser extent. But But just we saw a good bit of consistency from Cork last year, as in there was no real peaks and troughs outside of the league semi-final against Kilkenny. It was, steady graph, whereas the other day they were down the bottom of the graph and then they were up the top and then they were somewhere in the middle. So I'd imagine that's frustrating for Pat Ryan, who said that he has no interest in the league next year and is not paying any attention to it too, as well. And the standings, which I thought was a bit strange too, because I asked Shane Kingston a couple of weeks ago, what did he make of the new league? And he said, we haven't talked about it. And I thought he was only kind of saying it tongue in cheek, but they clearly haven't. But they need to get a couple of wins on the board to make sure they're in 1A next year. But just frustrating, Shane, from a Cork point of view, because it's in them, and that's the real frustrating thing. And I'd imagine Cork people are pulling their hair out at times looking at them.
Crack of the Ash says the first 20 minutes was like a player protest. That's a fair way to slay Cork. Do you know who I thought was another bright spark? Sean Toomey. Because obviously he's a big, physical, powerful guy. He'll stay going at you all day. And also, this is something you always do, Nisha, when you're hurling, is the use of the switch hand pass. He created 1-1 just before half-time with switch hand passes, and he set up a goal chance for Horgan at the start of the second half with them as well. And like, I give a great example. Like when David Herty came coaching us, Nisha, there around 2020 or 21, whichever year it was. Like
19.
Was it 19? So he was working on the, like possession type drill, and we were encouraged a lot to do the switch hand pass. And I'd say it was being done for a week or two, and then we played either a match or a training match. I can't remember, but I didn't even think about it, and I did a switch hand pass. And I don't think, I'd ever done it in my life of about, the guts of 30 years of hurling. And I was like, it's such a
That's scandalous.
Yeah, I know. I agree. But it was just like, it's such a good skill to be able to do. You've always done it. And I was watching Sean Toomey do it the other night, and I was like, if you can master it, and it's not impossible at all, it's such a good skill.
Yeah, but you see, this is the thing, is everybody should be able to hand pass the ball with both hands, because it opens up both sides of the field. I've played with lads that played inter-county hurling, and if you were on a particular side of them, you weren't getting the ball. So you always had to make sure you ran to the side that they could just give a hand pass with. It was so like you could be free in on goal, but because they can't hand pass with both hands, you're just not getting it. So
is this Ballygunner or Loughton's or Coola? Which?
Oh, Loughton's? Jesus, what are you on about? No. Oh, sorry, you said Loughton's. No. Everybody in Kilkenny can do it, you see. This is the thing. It's not like a thing that I was just able to do it, or Keane is able to do it. Like we were coached it from day dot. Like, you just had to be. My father always made sure you had to be able to hand pass the ball with both hands, whether you're playing cornerback, in goal, or corner forward. Because you think about it, if you're coming out with the ball as well as a cornerback or a full back, and you get held up on one side, you have to be able to hand pass it. You can't only be able to pass it in one direction, because then fairly quickly you're going to get stopped. Like anyone, and it's such a funny thing. I never really realised that it was a thing until I started coaching outside of Kilkenny. All of a sudden, people kind of going, "Sure, why would you do that for? It's too slow." Sure, Matty Kenny used to eat the head off me in drills for doing it. So when he'd walk up and down the line watching the drills, I'd just do the normal left-handed hand pass. But as soon as he was gone, I'd go back to doing my own one, because I was like, why would I stop practicing this? It'd be like telling someone stop striking the ball with each hand, or off each side, or if they were playing football, stop kicking it with each foot. Like, it just is, so, but it opens up, it gets you out of a lot of danger, and it creates an awful lot of danger. Because if you're running in up the middle, if you think about it, right? If you're full forward, let's say you're running, or centre forward, you're running through the middle, and then the two forwards inside know, if I go this way and he goes that way, we're both options, right? And you can hand pass with your hurl hand or hand pass with your ball hand. And I just think you have to, everybody, if you're trying to even play senior club hurling or junior even, you should be able to do it. And like I've often said, look, diamonds last forever, and so do skillful hurlers. So if you have hands and a brain, you'll probably be able to stay playing for an awful long time.
Nisha, I was sure it was diamonds last forever, and so does Ric Flair.
No, I couldn't take that. See, this is my own one.
Do you know what? I was thinking of tweeting out there, Nisha Waldron launches astonishing attack on Matty Kenny.
No, don't bother. I'll keep that for the book.
Do you know what that sounded like? It sounded very like the Joe Schmidt Irish rugby regime, where you weren't allowed to do anything outside of the box, and they weren't allowed to offload, and now all of a sudden they offload the whole time. So I don't know where you.
But it used to be funny, right? Because then he'd turn around sometimes and he'd say, like Nisha there, like he has great hands there, and you'd be kind of going, yeah, but you're eating the head off me when I do it, and you see me doing it, but then you praise me or whatever. But anyway, look, that's neither here nor there. But it's one of them things as well. You think, well, you're full forward, and I always think this is a really good example as well. If you're full forward as a target man, right, you win the ball, if you're back to goal. The easiest thing in the world to do always, I thought, was if someone tears past me and I can just pop it with my hurl hand or my ball hand, whatever, that I'm able to go either side. Right. And then I remember, like you were saying there, Shane, when Herity came, I remember like him talking to me once or twice saying, like, what's the problem here? Like, and I was just like, hey, lad, I've been here pulling my hair out with this for a few years now. And he was like, why can't I do it? Look, I don't know, because it's just a thing. Like in Kilkenny, it's just taken for granted that everybody's able to do it, but it's because we're coached to do it, like from a very, very young age, primary school, like we were doing it.
And I'd Mark shoot his dad coming up soon, and I know Matty's going to be at it, so I'm going to have to defend him some way. He didn't do so bad.
No. I know. It's on that point. I'm just saying it's interesting that a coach at that, or a manager at that higher level was telling me not to do it, like I always thought, and kind of be like, what? I used to be like, geez, this is the first time I've ever been told not to do it. Like, you know.
Do you know Verney was coached to not try and play the ball at all, just hand pass it off by every manager he ever had.
Yeah.
But there you go. Everyone needs a cornerback, and I always say when you're there, like when I'm coaching real small lads, look, like not everyone's going to be able to hit the ball over the bar, but everybody should be able to hand pass it, right? If I can run with the ball and hand pass it to somebody that can hit the ball, there's my job done, and run back in there number 2 or number 4 and stay in there.
Okay.
Sorry, look, somebody saying there Kilkenny exceptionalism. Sorry, now look, actually, Tipp and Waterford lads can usually actually do it too. So that's why I think it's funny that you couldn't do it, Shane. I was like, what? Surely to God, you were coached to do it.
But like, it wasn't hard once it's practiced for a week or two.
This
like,
is, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's easy.
It's like any skill. Yeah. It's like any skill.
Like you find yourself, you'd run along and you try and hand pass like that.
See, but that's the thing. Like that way is too inaccurate, and it cups in your fingers and all, where it should be just a nice, clear, open hand one. And then you see it introduces then the ability to hand pass it without actually handling it at all, if you get me. Where if I'm full forward, Slitter coming in low to me, and I just touch it off me hurl, let's say, so I get the first touch and hand pass it immediately without catching, because my hand-eye coordination should be so comfortable that I should be able to do that. Like,
it's gas though. You say it there. You worked on it, Shane, for such a small amount of time, and it's ingrained in your head. It's funny, like with things like that, especially if you haven't been maybe you haven't been kind of prone to it, or that coaches haven't really pushed it before. It's amazing how quickly you can see improvements in something like that when you do really focus on it.
Yeah, Eddie Brennan hand passed to Richie Hogan in 2012. I think that was 2011 actually. Keane Waldron, Nisha's brother, there, saying you were told not to hit it the odd time yourself, Shane. A little bit too often. Michael, I was going to ask you about Offaly drawing with Wexford over the weekend. What did you make of Offaly? What did you make of Wexford?
I kind of wasn't that surprised about Offaly in a way. Like, we've gone down there before and been really competitive, and whatever it is, Wexford raised their game for Kilkenny, but like teams that are lower than Kilkenny can be really competitive with Wexford for whatever reason. The form doesn't seem to tie over. But in the first half, I thought we had them kind of chasing shadows at times. We pressed up on their puck out. We pressed up on their defenders. They weren't able to break the first line of defence, which was brilliant. And we were kind of turning them the whole time. They were striking ball then aimlessly, just because we were kind of hunting in packs. And it was real pleasing to see the fact that our conditioning levels looked up to a level that I probably haven't seen them at before, and the fact that they were able to do it and still be pushing hard in the 75th minute was great. I thought tactically in the first half they were really, really good, as in they kind of let Wexford carry it to a certain area even if they did break a tackle, and then they didn't really have anywhere to hit it because we had a good few bodies behind the ball. I say they were tactically savvy enough, but then like to not win a game with 15 against 13 is criminal in a sense as well, because they've gotten themselves in such a good position, and the goal was a bit of a lifeline again, and you're expecting them to kick on. But like, it kind of showed that on a given day we can be very, very competitive with, you know, certain teams, maybe not a Limerick or a Galway, or obviously maybe not a Tipp or maybe a Cork, but with teams just below that, a Dublin, a Wexford, maybe even a Waterford on a day like the league a couple of weeks ago, we can be very, very competitive. So I thought it was very heartening now, Shane, to be honest with you. And I thought it was smart from Johnny Kelly even not to name Adam Screeney in the team on the Friday night and have a big deal made about it. It was kind of just he was in 15 minutes before throwing, and there wasn't a big deal about it. I thought he did well at times as well. And as diminutive as he is, he's well able to throw himself about, and he's well able to get he's a fair defender for a guy as small as he is, and with that has the potential to put on a good bit of muscle mass too. So yeah, no, I would say definitely largely happy and encouraged, I would say, by what I saw.
What about the red card?
Well, someone said it to me about the helmet pull that David King, that it couldn't have been deliberate because he was looking at the ball. He might have been looking at the ball, but I'd still say he had a fair idea what he was doing with his other hand. And Jack O'Connor's was a reaction to what was being done to him. If you're looking at the two incidents and you actually see them, which was worse, I would say the initial pull was miles worse than Jack O'Connor's pull. So to me, if one has to go, both have to go, I would say, to be honest with you. And I thought it was interesting on TG Carter. It's not really been done in the GA before. Like, they actually got Keith Rossiter to look at the incident and go through it. Like, that was, I thought was real, soccer style, NFL style. It was really good. And I thought his reaction to it was really good and balanced, because I'd say his blood was a bit up over it, and he managed to kind of pull himself together and give kind of reasoned comments on it. But no, to me, both had to walk there. And if one had to walk, it would have been King that should have had to walk.
I'd say it'd be more difficult to do that interview after a championship match when everything is truly on the line. Nisha, you've interviewed a few people on TG Carter after the game, haven't you, as well? Like, do you ever find you got an unexpected reaction of somebody where, maybe they took umbrage when, if their blood wasn't up, they mightn't have, or anything out of the ordinary?
At half time in the All-Ireland final there, O'Loughlin's, I had to ask Nigel Skean about the goal. So that was probably the closest thing. Other than that, I'm usually asking people something. What?
What did Nigel do? How did he react?
Oh, he was just kind of gritting his teeth, and you could see he wanted to, because he goes, there's been a few decisions now that have been going against us or whatever, and I kind of wanted to keep him going, but for time you can't, and obviously I don't. Like, the other thing as well is it's a kind of an awkward place to be as well, because you don't want to be, the way we do it at half time when they're on the way in. You don't want to be holding somebody back for too long and upsetting kind of what's going on with the team, because otherwise then they'll never speak to you again. But usually, other than that, you see, I'm usually talking to somebody at the end of the game when they've won, so they're happy as Larry. But the way they got Rossiter, the way Micheál O'Donnell got Rossiter over to talk, that it was done. I remember that was done once before in a club game a while ago, and it was fairly frosty as well. But it's good, like makes for good TV. But I thought Rossiter answered it very, very well. Like, he just basically said the same thing as Verney there. Like, if one of them has to go, the two of them have to go. Like, sure, like Jack O'Connor was being led around like a bull with a nose ring, like, he was just being dragged around and he was just grabbing and pulling himself.
Hey, Nisha, Shano has no idea what you're talking about there. He's never had a bull with the old tongues like that, trying to kind of stun him or like that, so he's getting a dose or something like that. Wouldn't know anything about that. Talk to him about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or something.
no dirt under his fingernails.
At all.
Nisha, what do you expect from Offaly and Wexford this year?
Hard to know, and I actually thought, funny enough, looking at the game, as far as hurling terms and skill and play, I actually thought Offaly have far better hurlers, just that Wexford are bigger, stronger, and obviously more mature and more experienced. But just Offaly have a right team coming, and I don't like the way the league is going to go for teams like Offaly or Antrim. I just don't like that, cutting it, and I don't know why as well. They always with hurling have to make it an odd number. Why 7? Like, why not 8 or 10? Like, just this kind of stuff. It's brutal. But anyway, Offaly from here, you'd be kind of thinking. And last year as well, like, they probably, they left the Joe McDonough behind them. So in their heads, they're probably a year behind championship wise. So they'll be looking to really, really push on, use the league, blood the new lads. And there's still a good few. I think there's 9 or 10 off the under 20 panel from last year are in with the seniors now, and you see them, like, they're right hurlers, but the jersey, like the tight fit jerseys, are hanging off them. So it'll take them another year or two to develop physically. But I think Offaly have a right team coming in the next few years. And then Wexford.
Nisha, really quickly on the league, like, I'm from Offaly, and I would look at it a different way. Like, Saturday night was grand, and the Waterford game was fine as well. But we have shipped some amount of hidings in Group 1A against really competitive teams, which I genuinely don't know if that does us any good. I don't really think it does. Whereas if you're in 1B, you'll probably play 2 to 3 teams that should be 4 or 5 points better than you, and teams that are around similar standard. So to me, I think that would be better for us to be competitive, and if we're good enough to go up and play Division 1A, brilliant. Same as if we're good enough to go up and play Leinster Championship, we'll earn our right. I genuinely don't think it's the worst thing in the world that we didn't win the McDonagh last year either, because I don't think we're not ready for Leinster. We'll be ready in 3 to 4 years, I'd say, to be somewhat competitive. That's just my own opinion. I don't know if a load of hidings are going to do Dan Ravenhill and Donald Shirley and Adam Screeney and all these boys any good, like.
So on that, like, it's like that's the thing, is the number of teams that is in the league, like, because just 7 is nearly too elite, like, where you'd nearly think that the team that comes up will just go straight back down, and the team that comes up will go back down again, and it'll just keep rotating like that if it's as low down as 7. Whereas ideally, I think somewhere between 10 and 12, where you'll have that bottom kind of 3, 4 knocking lumps out of each other and getting wins on each other, and then they're still getting exposed to a higher level as well. Because in every sport, in every league, in every competition, like, there's the top tier, there's the middle group, and then there's the bottom, right? And the bottom teams kind of play against each other and knock each other around and whatever. That's grand. But hurling and Gaelic football is a bit different, you see, because, like, with hurling, especially for the like of Offaly and like Antrim, for example, or Westmeath or Carlow or whoever, it's about kind of development and staying there and seeing what you can do, and while you're good, staying at as high a level as you possibly can, rather than just moving up and down and then restructuring the league and restructuring the championship. So then you could win your championship, but you don't get to come up and all that kind of. It's just, I think it's kind of probably too tight, the league, too squashed. That's all. As far as hurling development, I mean, like. But then Wexford, sorry, someone said I'm writing off Wexford there. I wasn't at all. I just thought that skill wise, I just thought Offaly looked like far more skillful hurlers, like, that's all. I think again Wexford should be pushing to come out of Leinster, like 100%. Like, this is, I know, like Keith Roster and them, that's probably their plan. It's like, right, the league is well and good. What we're trying to do is get lads fit, get lads enjoying it again, get lads playing a nice brand of hurling, a kind of more favourable one, and then be ready for the championship and, you know, beat Dublin, see what you can do then against Galway and Kilkenny, try make a Leinster final, but definitely get out of Leinster, and that's what they should be really pushing for. They might be still like a step or two behind Galway and Kilkenny, all right, but they definitely should be coming out of the top 3. Like, that's what they should be pushing for, coming out of Leinster.
And I'm wondering, you know, if we're talking about Offaly taking a jump in the next 3 or 4 years, which, you know, if everything goes right, it should happen, that they'll become a very competitive Leinster team. But I'm just wondering with Dublin, and Micheál Donoghue is obviously introducing an awful lot of fresh faces, and people are probably looking at the Dublin team at the moment, you know, the casual viewer wondering, who are these players? I haven't seen them before. And, you know, they were lucky enough to come away with a win. Sean Gallagher's effort was fumbled into the net by Tiernan Smith, who's, I think he's an outfield player with his club, so he's only getting used to it, so you're not going to blame him too much or whatever. But, you know, it was a bit disappointing for Antrim. In terms of, though, Dublin, Nisha, like, you're a coach in Dublin, you've been coaching in Dublin for quite a while, and you're in the north side with, it's Fingallians, isn't it, yeah?
No. I'm with Naguel Logan now.
Oh, sorry, you were Fingallians, weren't you?
Yeah, I was,
another club. Some man to accumulate clubs, in fairness to you.
No,
sure, it's a job.
That was
a job.
Yeah. But I just, like, and by the way, I believe Chris Crummy is actually back now. I know we kind of over that, but I believe he is back. What are you thinking of this Dublin team? And do you feel like there's players coming? Like, I'm sure you've seen Dara Power, who's been establishing himself, you know, with Fingallians. Like, are there players coming? Brian Hayes, he looks good.
Yeah. Brian Hayes, Dara Purcell, Davy Crowe, if he was there. Dara Power as well. Yeah, if he was when he's there, he's coming along nicely. I think actually at the minute, just because the lads, you know, said like Keane O'Callaghan gone, Owen O'Donnell still injured,
Donald Burke.
And
Donald Burke.
Sorry, Donald Burke. Yeah, I was going to call him Dara Burke there. Sorry, Donald Burke injured, coming back. Once the young lads that are really good kind of do develop and push on a bit, I think they'll be as dangerous a team as there is in Leinster as well. But now, whether that's this year or next year, I don't know. I think Sean Brennan is the best goalie as well. I'd love to see the team there now I'd love to see the team with Keane back and Owen O'Donnell back and Chris Crummey in the backs, not in the forwards, because I think his brother Paul is dangerous enough up in the forwards, and then the other forwards are real forwards. So I just think like get the correct shape on the team. Like if you're half back line there, like if you have Crummey in there, maybe centre back, wing back, I think he probably should be centre back really, and build it around him with him at 6 and O'Donnell at 3, and then build the other lads around him that are good, decent standard of player, and then Sean in goal. Like it's a good spine on your defence, right? And I know Keane O'Callaghan is away still, so you can't really keep talking with him, but unfortunately that's just the way it is. But with Dara Purcell, Brian Hayes, hopefully Davy Crowe comes back from whatever the hell is wrong with him. I like the 2 Currys as well. So look, I think there's a team coming, but I don't know if it's this year. I just don't know if it's this year, unfortunately, for Micheál Donoghue.
Yeah, it might be a case of like blooding more and more of those lads. Dermot O'Dooling being another one as well.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Sorry.
Yeah. What do you think yourself, Michael? Like 120 to 119, Antrim did an awful lot of the hurling. They're going to be, kicking themselves.
Yeah, it would have been a disaster for Dublin if they hadn't got something on the board. It's an important win, albeit a fortuitous kind of one. For Antrim, we talked probably only maybe negatives and question marks about them, given the personnel that they're missing. So we thought it was we read out some quotes from Darren Gleeson on Thursday show. He was optimistic and they delivered a very optimistic performance. You'd have to say it's encouraging for the year ahead, but not getting a point on the board is kind of worrying for them at this stage. They look certain to be in 1B. From a Dublin point of view, it's kind of like Micheál Donoghue's first year in a way. Like there's that many players even been blooded again. You'd nearly think it was his first year. There's no real, like at the minute you do well guess who's going to be 8 to 15 or who's going to be 11, who's going to be the midfield partnership, who's going to be 14. So like he definitely needs a Crummey back, and as you said there, Nisha, I'd definitely be like they were before. I'd be making 1 to 9 as strong as possible anyway, and getting that really, really solid, and then kind of fitting in the pieces around that. Definitely Brian Hayes is one fella that looks like he's really staked a claim. Just there are a few inter-county players with the pace that he has. Like I've seen him burn like really fast guys. Like once he gets Morton, the big problem for him is going to be maybe even breaking the tackle. You know what I mean? Once he breaks the tackle, he's fine. If they're able to get him on ball in space and take on players, he really would put the frighteners on you. But yeah, I'd be kind of the same as Nisha. I do think Dublin will get there, but I do think it's going to take a bit of time. And at the minute, if you're saying what's the pecking order in Leinster, you probably would have Wexford just about marginally ahead of them at the minute. But they can, like, that's kind of 50-50. It's all going to come down to that game, realistically, who's going to be third in Leinster, and they've kind of beaten each other in the last couple of years. But there's something coming. It just looks like it's going to take time, and could take a bit more. It's probably going to take a good bit more time than Micheál Donoghue wants it to take as well.
Yeah,
and like they won an under 20 Leinster there 3-4 years ago now. I'd say. Remember, it got delayed with COVID, and they were beaten by Cork in the final. So like there was a good few nice players on that, and that, like again, like they're still probably 23 kind of around that yet. So they're not there yet. A lot of them, few lads on the bench, all right, but they do have a few nice hurlers coming. But again, like kind of similar to Offaly, it's probably they're a year away from being 2 years away.
Yeah. Joe, Nisha, just before I let you go, I'm just looking at Division 2A here. Now, I know you won't have seen many of the games, whatever, but I'm looking at the amount of lads that you might have been coached by here. Willie Maher, obviously I was as well. Were you still in Coola when Saoirse Bulfin, who's over Meath?
Saoirse, I was, of course.
He's there as well. And actually, we might as well mention that by mistake, David Herty kept calling you Saoirse instead of Nisha at the start. Understandable mistake. And Kildare, Brian Dowling, who's good friends with your brother, he's over the Leash team as well. So, yeah. Would you be keeping an eye on many of these teams in Division 2A? It's tough to see them all, obviously.
Yeah, like that's the thing, is like you kind of only get to see the highlight packages, and then because I'm at a lot of the games and I miss some of them driving home and stuff like that, like it's annoying. But yeah, I'd be interested to see what Kildare do this year now under Brian Dowling, because with Herity, they seemed like last year, sure, they were in the 2A final, and you would have thought, like, just they'll push on to Joe McDonagh now, and they just went straight back down into the Christie ring, and then you'd be expecting Kildare to come up out of the Christie ring, but I kind of want to see. I'd be very interested to see what they do in the league now. I know that they were ahead against Laois for a spell in the game or whatever, and then Laois came back and bet them. But along with that, Down as well. Like Down are a funny team too. That like when we were hurling with Derry, like we used to beat Down regularly. But Down seem to have really, really progressed and kicked on, and there's a few newer clubs. They're not only relying on the Ards fellas anymore. So they're developing well. And again, like look, it's all relative. This is the kind of thing I was saying to Verney there as well. It's like it's all relative. Everyone has their own competition. Everyone has their own level. So like the like of Kildare, Down, they're looking to always develop and progress and catch up to get to the level of, let's say, Westmeath and Carlow. And then obviously Carlow, Laois are trying to take that next step up to get to where Offaly are. Which the Offaly went about it the right way by winning underage things, whereas Laois, now I know Laois had a good minor team there a year or two ago when Derek McGrath was helping them as well, but they're just a couple of players away. And then I always hate when this happens as well with the lower tiers. It's kind of because of the way they go up and down and whatever. It's nearly too easy to step away. Like Westmeath are missing how many lads this year? Like, you know, Antrim, I know retirements and lads stepping away and going travelling as well. It's just too easy to kind of say, like, well, I sure look at like whatever. Sure, we won the Christie Ring 2 years ago. Now we're back in it. What's the point of that? I'm going off, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's always kind of hard to judge a lot of those teams. But I would like to see. I'd love to see something new there where Kildare make a big leap, or Down, and you know. So I don't know. And it's hard to tell. It's hard to get a judge. And especially, I don't know if anyone saw. You couldn't make head nor tail of the Down and Kerry game there the other day. Like, what was going on there? The cameras were facing the advertising boards and everything. Like, it was just I don't even know what was going on. It was like it was like whoever was in charge of the cameras forgot they were working and just threw them down on the ground and went and got something to eat.
And Kerry was 7 points up, and then they conceded 2-8 in a row and ended up losing.
That's mad. Just on Kildare as well. It's been a kind of busy time for Brian Dowling and Richie Root, who he has been with him. They're managing Kieran's as well. They won the Leinster title. They beat CBS during the week, and they're obviously going into the All-Ireland stages now. But they must be on the road nearly every day of the week. But they haven't seen each other in school. They'll be sick of the sight of each other by the end of the year. But on Kildare as well, am I right in saying Kildare have won the ring in 18, 20 and 22? And will be expected to win it again in 2024. Like, imagine to say there's lads that are going to have records there, winning 4 Christie Ring Cup medals and not being smart as you. Like, it's not a record you want, you know what I mean? Because you're basically going up, down, up, down, up, down, and it's difficult to hold on to fellas. And Brian Byrne's probably a classic example of that. Had they won Division 2A last year, and if they were competing in the McDonagh again this year, he probably stays with the hurlers. Now they've lost Brian Byrne. They got back Jack Sheridan, who has put up crazy scores in pre-season and even in the league so far. But it's funny, the jump you were talking about there, Nisha, is a fair jump to get from being in around the top of 2A and winning the ring to actually being competitive in the McDonagh. It's a really, really difficult jump. The tiers within hurling are unbelievable, lads, when you go down through it. You have Limerick on tier 1. There's a tier 2 there with, you know, let's say Kilkenny, Galway, Tipp, Cork, whatever, Clare. Then there's a tier 3 with Wexford and Dublin, maybe even Waterford. Then there's a tier 4 with say Offaly and Carlow, maybe Laois. Then there's a tier 5, then tier 6, 7. There's so many. There could be 2 or 3 teams even in some of these tiers, and it's so hard to make that leap. And it's, yeah, from a Kildare point of view, starting with 2 losses is, I'm sure it's not how Brian Dowling would have wanted to start. And just, Shane, something we mentioned on the show maybe the Thursday before last was the possibility of a decent cohort of Kilkenny players joining the Meath panel. That's not happening anyway. I don't think that went through, or it wasn't rubber stamped. So they'll be playing all homegrown players for the year ahead. So, and I think Kildare are the same, and most of those counties are the same. Saying that, there's a fair influx of Limerick fellas down in Kerry. Paddy O'Brien's in a selector from Kilmarnock, and I think he brought a few lads with him by the looks of things.
Nisha, you've been great with your time. We've kept you over an hour at this stage, so you probably want to get back to the babby at some stage.
Yeah, well, sure. I was up late watching the Super Bowl, and I had only woken up there maybe 10 minutes before I came on the thing, and the phone wasn't charged. That's why I had to run around in the middle of the thing.
I was at a Super Bowl party in a bar there last night, and I had to Google the result when I woke up this morning.
No way.
Hadn't a clue.
Why, did you fall asleep?
No, but sure, I was tipping away, so just the memory came against me then.
Well, you were doing more than tipping away, if you don't remember.
Look, I'd one or
a
two.
face full of nachos and a britcher full of nachos.
Hey, Nisha, we'll chat to you again. Cheers.
Right. Good luck.
Joe, we had a comment in there asking about is Conway not in with Kerry this year? He's injured. He's actually injured. So, obviously that wasn't an ideal result for Kerry, losing to Down up in Ballycran, 6-hour trip each way. I presume you went up the night before, but they didn't have Conway or Luke Crowley. So that's two key parts that are attacking Arsenal.
Yeah, I'm sure. Listen, pull out all the lads that have retired in the last 6 or 7 months as well. And it is, I was looking down through the Limerick or the Kerry team sheet, and you're kind of thinking, there's a lot of names here that you wouldn't really recognise. There's none of the Boyles. Conway is injured. They're kind of really relying on Fiona Mackesy at the minute. Jordan Conway wasn't featuring in the couple of games I saw anyway. And it's kind of been injury plagued the last couple of years. An absolutely brilliant player if you can keep him fit. But yeah, there's a lot of new personnel. From Steve Malumphey's kind of point of view, it's like Darren Gleeson up in Antrim. In your second year, you don't want to be losing a whole lot of experience and trying to build a new team, because you're building a new team then for your third year. But it's a kind of a difficult one, because you always want to come in and get the nucleus of a good team, and then you want to build on that next year. But a lot of managers in the lower tiers are coming in and they're having a good first season, and then their foundations are being chipped at a small bit, maybe with lads kind of stepping away or maybe going playing football or something like that. And then they're kind of starting from the same standing as they were in the first year, and you're behind the 8 ball when they're like that. But that's kind of the way it is in the lower tiers a lot of the time.
What do you make of Limerick beating Westmeath over the weekend? Not Westmeath had lost by 31 points to Galway. They lost this game by 6. And it's not like it was a Limerick, C team or anything like that. 6 of the All-Ireland starters started this game. Donegal O'Dolig, I should say. He scored 1-4. Micheál Houlihan scored 4 points. That's not a bad showing from Westmeath after what happened the week before.
It's a brilliant showing, realistically. You're kind of just following the updates on Twitter, and you're kind of saying, when are Limerick going to pull away? And they eventually did, but by all accounts, the 6 points was very flattering towards them. It was more of a 2 or 3 point kind of victory, just from chatting to a few different lads that were at the game. Having been pasted the week before, it was a good weekend for hurling, wasn't it? In the sense of Offaly were back competitive against a good outfit again. Antrim, after taking a pace in the first week, should have won. Westmeath, having taken a pace in the first week, could have got something out of Limerick, and all the other games were tight. So you had 12 teams basically covered by a blanket in Division 1, which is very, very promising. From a Limerick point of view, we've chatted about this on the show. For whatever reason, when Limerick play Westmeath, it's always competitive. For whatever reason, over the last 5 or 6 years, even when they played them the last 3 or 4 years in the league, there's been no real hammerings, and Westmeath have put up a decent score. And for some reason, when Galway play Westmeath, they absolutely lay waste to them. So the form lines between different teams just don't make sense. But I'd imagine Joe Fortune knows what he has in Westmeath, and he's eking as much as he can out of them. But I imagine that was very heartening for him, because you're going into a 2-week break now. They were beaten by 31 the first week. They were competitive with the All-Ireland champions. And you say it wasn't like a B team or a C team. There was lots of faces in there that they went toe-to-toe with for 75 minutes or so. So very, very encouraging from them. From a Limerick point of view, they were able to ease a couple of boys back into action. And you'd be expecting them to go up a couple of gears after the 2-week break.
Yeah, so Carlow, after winning the Joe McDonagh last year, did a nice win there over Meath at the weekend, 322 to 116. Marty Kavanagh scored 1-6, Chris Nolan scored 6, John Michael Nolan scored 1-2, as did Conor Keogh. So they had plenty of lads getting on the scoreboard. Padge O'Hanrahan scored 9 points for Meath. Nicky Potterton scored 1-1. So that was a comprehensive enough one. And then Laois, that was a very tight game at half time against Kildare. It finished up 322 to 120. Picky Maher scored 7. James Dougie, he scored 1-1. Stephen Bergen and Mark Dowling scored a goal apiece. What are you expecting from Carlow this year? I was really disappointed when I saw them in the Walsh Cup in pre-season. But that's a good victory there, and they were very comprehensive against Kerry.
Yeah, they've kind of, I don't know. I remember chatting to Tom Mullally last year, and he kind of said, the way he put it to me was, I asked him about maybe pre-season and even the league and their inconsistent results, and he kind of just said, with the squad that we have and the depth that we have, we can't target every competition. He said we have to, like, basically said they aimed to peak in the McDonagh last year, and I'd say they peaked fairly well, and they were competitive against Dublin in that quarter final. I'd say he's probably looked at the league. They're in Leinster this year, and that's going to be a big step up. But I'd say he's looked at the league long term and said, we need to get out of 2A, and we need to make sure we're in 1B next year for the future and for the next couple of years of Carlow hurling. So I'd say they really go after that league, try and make sure they're promoted. And that'll be a nice carrot to have for next year, that they'll be playing games that they will improve a hell of a lot from. I wonder then when they're going into Leinster, if they do have a good league run, will they be able to sustain that with a relatively shallow squad? It's difficult when your numbers are 18, 19 really. So hopefully for his sake, he's developed a couple of other fellas. But they're better than a 2A team, and they're showing it at the minute. So I'm sure that's what he's focusing on at this moment in time, is to try and get up to 1B for next year.
So I'm going to read out the other results from the other tiers, and then I'm going to ask you just quickly your thoughts on Tipperary being back after beating Galway in a league game. But I'll just read the other one first. Gives you a chance to come up with something witty now. You can have a nice up there. Anyway, 2B, Tyrone beat Roscommon 20 points to 11. London 330, Wicklow 120. Donegal 19 points, Derry with 220. Division 3A, Armagh Sligo drew 115 to 212. Mayo had a big win over Monaghan, 520 to 9 points, and Cavan's off Louth 319 to 119. Division 3B, Fermanagh 126, Leitrim 15, so that was comprehensive, and Longford 221, Warwickshire 115.
Just a couple of little bits there. One would be the Fermanagh result, winning by 21, and Joe Baldwin been back on the sideline 3 weeks after having a stroke, which is just unbelievable. I saw the interview that was circulating around, and you just see, like, that's kind of what hurling does for people. Hurling gives you that energy to kind of stay going at times in the GA, and he always had that in the background. I need to get back on the sideline or whatever. It's just a phenomenal story. And a fascinating fella by the looks of things. We'll have to get on the show fairly soon. Wicklow were beaten over in London as well. I'm from what I'm hearing, it was a bit more encouraging than the Donegal result the week before. They travelled over in the morning of the game. They were beaten well enough in the wind-up, but it's a really, really rookie team. Very, very few names that you'd recognise compared to years past. A quick one as well, and I know you did it before. We do the league forecast competition in Borough, where you tried, like the pools, where you tried to predict every result. And two of them done me for the exacta. I'll be straight with you, I had Wexford to beat Offaly, and that's... Your heart should not rule your head when it comes to something like that. And I thought Wexford would win the game. And Simon Donoghue had a chance to win the game. And then I had Cork Kilkenny draw. And I just willing the ball over the bar from Cork. Had those two results went my way, and easily could have, it would have been a sweet 500 quid. Instead, I only made 100, which is okay, to be fair. But that's just a brief little aside on Tipp and Galway.
We had to drag that out of you, by the way.
Yeah, oh yeah. On Tipp and Galway, so that was a mad kind of game. It's just like Tipp went on a flurry, Galway went on a flurry. Tipp went on a flurry, Galway went on a flurry. It kind of looked like the game was gone away from Tipp a small bit in the end, and they were able to find a bit more. Just on a couple of things I don't know if you talked about. I thought Willie Connor's brilliant. I thought his link play was fantastic, and I thought they were looking to get him on the ball the whole time, because he's a very, very good distributor. I thought he was really good. Connor Bowe wing back as well. Looks comfortable there, and he's combative, and he looks like the sort of player that could, really lay it down maybe to one of the Limerick half forwards. Gerard O'Connor as well. Like, I don't know, how is that man still standing? How is he still standing? He put up a big score against Dublin the Saturday before last. He was man of the match during the week for UL. I don't know. I don't think he should have been on the field at the end of the match yesterday. Now, being honest with you, if he's able to play well in the Fitzgibbon on Wednesday night, he is that machine that you predicted that he was a couple of weeks ago. Because how he was even still going, and I just looking at nearly every tip forward been taken off, and him still been on the pitch, which I thought was a bit. When you're after losing Jake Morris and Brian O'Mara due to hamstring injuries, I was like, Jesus, you're.
And Dara Stakem lasted about 90 seconds.
Yes, I did. I only saw that after. And they're kind of like thinking, Jesus, Liam Cattle's walking a bit of a tightrope here. And he will be watching the Fitzgibbon game like that on Wednesday night, because the mileage that Gerard O'Connor is, it's not like an inside forward that dances around. He travels the length of the pitch, like he plays in his half back line at times when they don't have the ball. So I don't know how he did what he did, but I would say from a Tip point of view, to kick on and get the result when there was a bit of pressure on will be hugely heartening. And that's why Gerard O'Connor was on the pitch at the end, because Liam Cattell did not want to lose that game. And he was going to try and do everything possible once they were in that position to try and get over the line, and they did.
Yeah, I feel like a few weeks ago, and I know you do rate Gerard O'Connor very, very highly, but I think I had kind of said that I think he's probably Tip's most important forward now. And I think that raised your eyebrow a little bit. Like when you watch something like that, what we've seen the first couple of weeks, like Tipp were struggling to start the second half against Dublin. Then the next couple of puckouts went on him and the ball either stuck or he won it or whatever. Like, to me, he is Tip's most important forward, which, like, is that becoming more obvious now?
Yeah, probably. It's just that I think it's his third year in there. I think he was in there.
He was in there 22. I remember him being on the bench against Antrim in Thurles, and I was furious he didn't come on, because I was like, you scored 7 goals here. Just give him his bow, like just throw him in there, and he wasn't brought in.
Yeah, he's still quite raw, I'd say, probably physically, but he's the sort of fella that you could definitely build a forward line around. Obviously, like, you're kind of spoiled in the sense of free takers. Like, if him and Jason Ford to hit the frees, I'm not going to say carry is not the right word, but will both of them play in the same forward line? They probably will. Will Noel McGrath play? It's interesting to see where Noel McGrath kind of plays this year as well, because they seem to be going for, like, Willie Connors can nit play, but he's a real kind of worker as well. I was really impressed with him, and I think it's very important to have him back in there. I have to say as well, I thought Craig Morgan was brilliant in the second half. Like, he's that type of attacking defender with a ball of energy, who's so good on the ball as well. It's so important that he gets kind of a clean run this year. He was only just back from the cruise, and he'd done the hammer, didn't he, against Offaly last year in that big qualifier win. So, if you're able to get everyone on the pitch, Tip won't be a million miles away. As regards Gerard O'Connor, who's the more? See, there's a good few rookies in around that forward line as well. Kennelly's obviously a rookie kind of this year. Sean Ryan was there last year. It's only his second season. Maybe you probably are right, to be honest with you. He probably has the scope to be the man in the forward line in Tipperary over the coming years.
What about Galway then?
Yeah, it's a bit up and down, wasn't it? Like, when they were good, but very, like, I'd say Henry scratching his head a small bit. I'd say, like, I don't know, I just thought he'd be able to change the mentality a bit more. Like, the one thing about his Kilkenny team that he played on is that they were always consistent and you knew what you were going to get. But Galway I would say under Micheál Donoghue, you knew exactly what you were going to get out of Galway nearly on a given day. Consistency was the real thing. Even if they lost the game, like against Dublin up in Parnell, they weren't particularly bad that day. Dublin kind of caught fire. But since then, they've been so Jekyll and Hyde. I'd say they were probably consistent enough. First year, Shane O'Neill. Second year, so inconsistent. 2022 in Sheffrin's first year, beaten comprehensively enough in Leinster final. Last year, beaten comprehensively in an All-Ireland semi-final. And it's just too up and down. It's too up and down. And I don't know. They had themselves back in a position to kind of probably kick on and win that game. And, Evan Nyland hit 2 wides in a row that you just don't normally see. But he was showing his right-hand side, and he's not as reliable off his right-hand side. There's no point in saying any different. There was one which Conor Whelan threw him out, and it was so handy, like. And he nearly ended up in the top corner, but it would have been a fluke if it had. And I just don't know. Yeah, just so inconsistent. You just do not know what you're going to get on a given day. And at the minute, do I see any stamp of Eamon O'Shea on their forward line in particular? I don't really, but honest with you, because it was just mostly what they got joy out of was probably a couple of kind of long balls in around Jason Flynn or in around Conor Cooney. And that's not really an Eamon O'Shea tactic, is it, really?
But to be fair, like the team that he was involved with Tipp most recently in 2019, 20 and 21, that forward line wasn't exactly flying either. So it's a big job on for Eamon O'Shea, like to get this forward line moving, whatever way he'd like to get it moving. But the one thing I would have said, like, the two teams were level late on, so Tipp were just as inconsistent within the game as Galway were. But I would have said when Tipp were moving the ball well, like what the level they were playing at was much higher than the best of what we saw from Galway during that game.
Yeah, I would have I would have made big comparisons between Tipp and Galway. When Tipp were on top, they didn't make hay, like Kilkenny didn't make hay against Cork on Saturday night. Like, Tipp were much the better team when they were on top, and yeah, I thought their use of the ball was a lot slicker. They just they must have went 15 or 20 minutes, nearly scored us in the second half. Did they once it? They were on 21 for what seemed like forever, and that would probably frustrate Cattle, but. Imagine how frustrated he would be if they ended up in a draw or something like that. Just quickly on, I was only chatting a couple of boys this morning there as well. Were you surprised Gearóid O'Connor went for the goal from the penalty? Had that been saved, like a goal up the other end and you're beaten by a point, or even if he'd went, if he tapped the ball over the bar and gone 3 up, and he must have looked out. He must have looked out and been instructed to go for the throat or whatever. But if that had been saved or it went over the bar and they get a goal up the other end and it ends in a draw, would have been a bit different, I'd imagine.
I would say I'd have been disappointed if you didn't go for a goal there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Maybe in Tipp we have a different mentality than you have in actually that's and kind of the reason that I kind of went for that little jibe is actually Adrian McGrath in a comment about mentality here. How would Henry Shefflin understand Galway's mentality? Every time he played, he expected to win. That's not the reality in a place like Galway.
Well, given the talent that they have, you'd have to say, like, 1 All-Ireland since '88 is a massive underachievement. Like, massive.
Continue.
Like, there is loads of talent there, but there are a lot of parallels with Cork in that sometimes they don't engage enough. They're just inconsistent. It's too kind of up and down. And you kind of came away, I know it's early and I know it's only the second round of the league, but you did come away with a good few question marks. I think, is this the same old Galway? Same as Saturday night, am I thinking, is this the same old Cork? When they turn it on, they're nearly unstoppable, but it's not on nearly enough as you'd like.
Yeah. Who's the goal of the week?
Oh, it's a long weekend. Like, there's so many matches. I'm trying to think even through one on Saturday. Just a quick aside, actually, has Adrian Mullen trimmed down a good bit?
I mean, he's in great nick.
Yeah.
I don't know if he changed much, but
I think he looks a good bit leaner, and even like he's mobile before this, but I think he looks even more mobile now. I'd probably nearly go for him. I'm just thinking of the Sunday games. It's probably down between Gearóid O'Connor, I'd say, and Adrian Mullen, I'd say, realistically.
Yeah. What about Patrick Mahomes?
I had a tip man describe Ronan Maher as Patrick Mahomes to me last week. Is that an accurate comparison? Is he a quarterback?
I mean, in the sense that you stand behind where the play is going and you're able to fire bullets. I mean, obviously Ronan can do that, yeah.
Yeah.
But you could say that about a lot of players then if you wanted to go down that route. Actually, also I haven't picked a goal of the week because I'm actually struggling to think who really kind of took over games over the weekend. Like, did anyone particularly take over Offaly, Wexford, Waterford, Clare?
I thought Brian Duigan was very, very good for Offaly. It's probably his best game senior for Offaly. I thought Charlie Mitchell was outstanding as well. For a young fella, I thought he took the game by the scruff of the neck.
I had a good pop at Sean Brennan actually last night. We have an NFL WhatsApp group or whatever, and I was taking a pop in about that brilliant save he made in the second half. I can't remember who took the shot for Antrim, but it was going over the bar. Now, it was still a brilliant save, but he saved it out for 65. 65 was popped over anyway. So I said, you stopped a point, but for the concession of a point. So well done.
At least he made the point harder to get.
Yeah. Do you know what? Sean Toomey goal of the week is what Catnap said. I'm actually going to give it to Tommy O'Connell. I thought he was quite good for it.
Yeah. O'Connell and Toomey are two very, very promising players. And not yes, they have the skill and that's paramount, but it's more to do with character, I would say, because Cork need a few more of those lads, and they need kind of a couple more, maybe Brian Roaches as well. And
just one final thing, I enjoyed seeing Jackie Tyrrell and Don Logue having pops at each other about how long it's been since each other's county had won anything. Because as we know, and pains me to bring this up, if both of those teams don't win the All-Ireland this year, Cork will have gone 20 seasons without winning All-Ireland. Kilkenny will have gone 10, and it's going to cut me up to see it.
It was good to see them cutting at each other with that. The other rant, I'm not so sure. I couldn't make much sense of it, to be honest with you, because from everything I've been reading and any interviews I've been seeing with Tom Ryan, I don't think there was any cut or, you know, onus on the players as regards the costs of inter-county teams. I think really what he was putting the focus on was the coaching teams and the extended backroom teams and all the costs that are associated with them. I didn't see any kind of cut at the players. So it was it was a bit left field to me, to say the least. And to be honest with you, like I'm all for strong opinions and stuff like that. But we had a match that was barely previewed before the ball was thrown in. You know, really, kind of, to me, a really exciting match with the guts of 16,500 down there. They barely talked about the match before the ball was thrown in, which I found very strange.
Okay. Look, if you want to get the audio podcast, that's at patreon.com/OurGame. Need a club fundraiser, email events@ourgame.ie. Geez, that's been a packed show. Cyril Farrell, Nisha Waldron, yourself, myself, some amount of hurling chat. No football at the weekend, but look, we'll be talking about that later in the week. Michael, we'll chat to you again.
Cheers, Shano.